Hello, everyone. This is Rick with the Cyber Pro podcast, where industry leaders share their insights. It's more than 5 questions in less than 9 minutes because hackers never sleep. So let's get to it. I'm excited for our guest today, an Air Force veteran. Question number one, who are you and what do you do?
Hey, Rick. So thanks for having me. My name is Jason Morris. So right now, wearing a lot of hats. I'm a technology strategist at Microsoft, focused in healthcare and ISVs for a partner ecosystem, and also an adjunct professor for University of Maryland School of Business, the Robert Smith School of Business. So I teach a big data and artificial intelligence course.
Wow, that's impressive. I mean,
Thanks.
not that teaching isn't awesome. I've done that in the past, but the fact that having the Microsoft gig and gives you the ability to go do other stuff. So
It's helpful,
which is good. You mentioned you teach something on big data. What got you into the data side of the house?
Yeah. My career when I started, I worked at a hosting company as like a systems engineer, and I kind of just fell into this big data space. I was working with a group of researchers that I'm still best friends with. And I was really fascinated by just the problems that we had to solve. I remember the hosting company, we used to just either store data on tapes or just get rid of it. And because storage was expensive back then, and so now within cloud computing and the storage options that we have available, we have so many different things that we can pull out of that data and so many insights. And taking machine learning algorithms from like 1940s and 50s and trying it against these terabytes and petabytes of data, and then having that specialized compute of like FPGAs and GPUs to like really push the metal. I just instantly was attracted to that.
Nice. I haven't dug into the big data side of the house, but obviously I work in a field that focuses on machine learning. So data is clutch. So I'm always respectful of those people who have made this a career, because my brain just hurts sometimes. So
I hear it every day. You learn something.
Question number two, what's the best thing about being a cyber or IT professional?
I would have to say the people that I work with, of all diverse backgrounds. It's the professionals that I've learned from, the mentors that I've had, and some of my bosses that I've really respected, have helped me and guide me to be more of a technology professional in the career. And I really would say that the other thing is just how technology is so ingrained with everything around the world that it's never boring. Even from the smallest database at a small company to quantum computing, there's technology everywhere. And so it's such a driving force. It's almost like the rest of the world's looking at technology professionals like ourselves, to really push the limits to see how far we can go in technology advancements.
Question number three, tons of leaders, industry experts, all these folks are telling me that cybersecurity is a top concern, IT security, you name it, it's a top concern. I want to pivot that question a little bit. I want to know what that means to you, but then I want you to tell me, how does data interact with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so cybersecurity, especially, when you're talking about like the cloud space, for example, some individuals have this concern that they're giving up their resources or their data to a provider that they can't touch or see or feel. Back in the day, we used to call them like server huggers. They wanted their own server. They named their server. That was their server. They could feel it and see it. It was in their walls. It was secure, right? And so that paradigm shift, that mind frame of now seeing like, hey, I have to trust a vendor with my data and my security. That's a new way of thinking. It's like I have to make sure that I'm not exposed. On the data side, I mean, you name it, from anywhere from financial regulated data to hospital data to patient data. That's always come up as something that we need to protect and secure. But then you're starting to see a lot more push towards data privacy, right? So people are starting to really understand, well, wait a minute, this social networking site that I'm using isn't free. I didn't understand the currency before. The currency is now my data. And so I don't want so-and-so to try to sell me like Tide Pods all day, or, I want to protect my data as much as possible. And I also don't want some ransomware person stealing my data and blackmailing me. I mean, the scenarios go on and on here. So you're starting to see a lot more people become more data aware and security conscious.
Do you think that consumers have a different mindset of data versus businesses as they're trying to drive cybersecurity awareness for their business case?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like consumers, and I don't want to speak for all consumers, right? Like there's some super sharp consumers out there, but I would say like your average consumer, probably already knows about recommendation engines, right? Like Netflix, intelligent next movie, or Amazon for the next product, right? The business side of the house, it's interesting because they obviously have been doing this for quite some time. The show Mad Men kind of flashes into my head right now, of this ad space. I mean, it's been around for the longest time. As long as there's somebody that's interested in buying something, someone's going to try to sell it. And I think there has to be some type of tie between consumers and businesses that have some type of shared data platform or vision of just giving enough data to have that, where you're not giving up, everything about yourself just to get these recommendations for some products.
Very insightful answer. Let's jump into question number 4. What insight do you want to share with other experts?
I would say don't get pigeonholed into your position and think that this is pretty much it. I mean, the field itself is the same thing. I tell my students that, when they graduate, you're not done learning. You've picked the field where you're going to reinvent yourself consistently. And as I mentioned before, I was a systems engineer, way back in the day, where I managed about 5 or 6 different operating systems at a given time. Now my job's one script or one line of Python, right? So, I now have different types of automation to do all these things, right? So for, professionals in the field, don't get stuck on just one thing and loop through. Like, really branch out, especially if you're looking, as a security expert or cyber expert, looking into the data and AI space. It's really, really starting to pick up. And you're starting to see kind of data and AI figure out, not only is it great for just machine learning, artificial intelligence, for statistics, and maybe for some modeling, but we can start applying some of these techniques to defense, and network defense and topology, and try to figure out, who was on the network and why is the printer now an FTP server, and, all kinds of fun things like that, doing real-time analytics on large data.
Nice. I'm going to add a follow-up question before we get to our final question. And as an educator, I'd be curious your take on this. There are all sorts of quick certs and boot camps, and obviously higher education, right? The 4 years, the 2 years, and those things. And you teach at the higher education level. My question is this: is there value in auditing or paying for classes that may not lead to a certification? Do you think you'd get more from that than if you already have a degree, right? Let's say you already have that degree, than jumping into a boot camp or a certification?
So this question is always tricky for me since I'm completely self-taught. So I would say that, and I've given this recommendation before, the boot camps, I definitely feel that for people, especially like, for example, in data science, I had someone that was in biotech in the boot camp to become a data scientist. And she asked me like, hey, is this even, worth my time? Like, is my biotech background worth anything? I said, absolutely. It's like, you are now a subject matter expert in that, biotech. Like, I don't know, I can make the data look anything I want, right? Like, I can run it in pandas, I can just do things. I don't have that background. You do. But now you have the background as a data scientist. You have the certifications, you have an understanding of how to work as a data scientist with a biotech background, right? So that's extremely valuable. And then, within universities and, in technology, I mean, absolutely, like getting that fundamental knowledge down, that's absolutely helpful. There's some things, especially in the fundamentals, are going to stay the same in technology, but don't get really tied into just one technology or one framework. I know that I talked to some professionals or some folks are like, oh, I really love this application. And I'm like, cool, but maybe in 5 years it's gone. And you're going to be that person that's still doing that same thing. So, try to tackle the problem and just use these technology frameworks as tools.
Nice. 5th and final question. Fun question. What's your favorite piece of retro technology that makes you smile?
My Game Boy Color that I've modded. I put the Freckle Shack mods. I got an LED or LCD screen on it, and I just play Tetris all day, and I love it. And I know that I have a Switch. The Switch is great and all that, but like, I feel that's pretty retro. And then not so retro, but I still have to give it a shout out, is my Nokia N900. One of the best phones that I think I've ever had in my entire life. It ran Linux. It had everything I ever needed. And I really wish that the phone platform really was just adopted. But I absolutely love that phone, and I haven't had anything better since.
Nice. We won't tell Apple or Google that. But,
yeah,
we'll let them know. That this has been great. This is it. You did it. More than 5 questions in about 9 minutes, because that's what we do here. It was epic having you on, folks. Check out the rest of the Cyber Pro podcast. Stay awesome.
Thank you.